like to call, we all ready, Mike? You good?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
All right, I'll call the meeting to order at 6:04, Finance, um, and March 18th. And I am going to pass it right over to Mike so we can get going on the February 2026 financial reports.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Ken, if you would mind, if you have them, pull them up. If not, I have them here. All right. So a rather uneventful month, I suppose, for the, let's see, the month of January, that should say.
Yeah, that should be February.
Uh, oh, yeah. So for the month of February, we have, computer's freezing here, sorry. There was $12.8 million of expense this month. It's in comparison with the rest of our months that have two payrolls. This time last year, we were slightly higher. It was almost 16 million in the prior year. Some of what you're seeing in this month and the month prior, and you're going to see for the remaining couple of months, is one-time spend down of that surplus money. We're working right now on providing the committee and the board a list of items that account for that. I reran the report today and was just checking with facilities and IT, and I think there were a couple of discrepancies in coding. So if it's okay with the committee, then I would like to just postpone on publishing that until I could drill down in those numbers. I don't want anything to be misleading or give everyone incorrect information. So that should be coming shortly. For the year to date, we're at $93.1 million in spend from the beginning of July. There's about $74 million additionally that's been encumbered to the general fund. And that's against our operating budget of $172 million. So right now, as of the end of February, we're floating around a $5.1 million surplus. That's going to continue to come down for a couple of reasons. One of which is the continuing of the one-time spend down, so those one-time items that I just spoke about, as well as some items that are out there that we don't currently have encumbered. Again, I always talk about graduation because it's the great example, but there are expenses that come up from time to time that we don't know about that are not in the encumbrance number. And we'll get into a little bit of what's driving that 5.1 in a minute. But just to give you a roundabout, it's about 3% of the annual budget. And I think that's a pretty good place to be in. The legislation allows us to keep 2% of from the previous year's budget. So I think 2% is really would be a good benchmark for us, not to run too close to the budgeted allocation for the year, and still remaining responsible. Again, and as always, we're very closely monitoring our benefits, health, dental, FICA, long-term and disability insurance, as well as workers' comp. Represents a fairly large piece of our budget, but in particular, it's the health and dental, and that has been a problem in the past, and we've corrected that. We think going forward into the fiscal year 27 budget, but we work on a monthly basis with our third-party administrator to help us really understand what's going on there, what are the driving factors. We don't have it at employee level data, but we do have a fair amount of detail. We meet with them, like I said, on a monthly basis. The other areas that we're really looking out for really surround special education. Special education is one of those areas that could be quite unpredictable. While we know what the current situation looks like, there could be someone join the district with short, little, or no advance notice. And some of those can potentially be quite large impacts. So we monitor that. Kelly Truchis in special ed does a very good job of letting us know if one of those events occur. But like I said in previous meetings, we monitor it closely, and the outside institutions that we use are rather expensive, and they're not bound to any contractual increases year over year, meaning they could raise their prices to whatever they want. That could be a significant impact. And we've seen that happen in the past. Ken, if you could just scroll down, and then I'll just pause there for any questions. I don't see any hands up. Okay.
Just a quick clarification question, and I apologize, Mike, because I was not here at the last finance meeting. I did watch it, but I want to make sure that I understand what I'm looking at. On that previous page where it mentions that benefits have a currently have a favorable balance because of the movement of those benefits from the general fund to the ARPA funds. Can you just help me understand? Because ARPA, I believe, is not going to last past this year, right? This is the last year for that grant. So, what is the plan to cover those benefits that are being moved over next year?
Yeah, and that's a helpful note. Part of the variance is due to a shift from general fund into the grants fund, ARPA being the hallmark there. But it doesn't represent a very large portion, should I say, of the variance. Some of the other parts that are driving the variance are, as you may remember, when we did the budget, we budgeted for open positions that are not being filled. So that health and dental are both impacted by positions that are in the budget but not quite filled yet, as well as the ARPA addition. And currently, I think we're running pretty close to the projected numbers. Like I said in the last meeting, speaking to our third party that's helping us out, we're running fairly close. In respect to next year, part of the reason that these numbers here are elevated are because those folks that are being charged to ARPA, as well as their benefits, are in this budget. And because we budgeted by person for next year, those people are accounted for as well as their benefits in the next year's budget.
In the general fund.
In the general fund, correct.
Okay, great. So this is just a one-time deal with the current budget situation we have to make sure we're not.
Yeah, it was a little bit of I guess foresight. If we would have not budgeted them in this year, we would have had to ask for more for our 27. So we left them in this year's budget partially for that reason.
Okay, thank you very much. And then just one other quick question for you, Mike. I know you alluded to the list of items. I just want to make sure because I saw that drop from December to January, which was significant. So the itemized list that you're talking about, is that going to cover the full difference in what the balance was, the balance shift from December to January? Is it going to cover that full amount in the itemized list, or are there
It's
other
not
contributing factors?
There are other contributing factors. It will not cover the entire drop.
Okay.
One of the significant impacts when we open our system, our system is on a fiscal year, obviously going from June to July, July 1st to June 30th.
Sure.
The tax year is on a calendar year, and the way our system works is that when we put everyone in and we encumber their benefits and whatnot, it only encumbers up to 12/31. The reasoning that they have given us is because there are new tax tables that are effective 1/1 and they don't know what they're going to be. I don't like that answer because while they are subject to change and often do, it's not that dramatic that you should not include something. So what we're going to do in fiscal year 27 is we're just going to encumber from the beginning that the second half of the year to kind of level that off, so you don't see that big jump.
Based on the existing year's tax rates, with the understanding there will be a bump, but it won't be as substantial.
Yes, correct.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And just so we have a sense, do you have a timeline for getting that list to us?
So I pulled the list again today. It doesn't take very long to pull. It's just a few minutes to pull. The time consuming thing is really sitting down with Mike and going through with him and Rich Jalbert and going through the items that they are charging and saying, well, is this one time or is this not? And in a similar manner, I have to sit with Gina from the IT department
IT.
with the
Okay.
same thing. And unfortunately, she wasn't in the office today, so I didn't get to sit with her. And like I said, I'd rather spend the extra day or so and it'll be a little bit more accurate. But I'm going to pick back up on that tomorrow, and I hope to have a list in the next couple days.
Wonderful. Okay. Thank you very much.
Anybody else have any questions before we move on?
I just would like to ask Mike, that 5.1 million surplus, will that number come down by
Yes.
time the committee meets with the education committee of the Common Council?
Yes, it comes down daily as expenses are paid and things are encumbered.
Okay.
We report out on it monthly. So yes, as of today, that number is
So, but it necessarily won't go down or change, and you still use the word surplus, that we have this surplus. If it doesn't go down by the time you meet with the education committee, you know, then you will be able to explain the surplus, where it comes from and which items are surplus.
correct.
So I just want to jump in for a second because it's a surplus after June 30th. Right now, these are unexpended funds that
Okay.
number is still going down. So I just want to make sure that we're not calling it a surplus just yet. Because there are continuing to have, things that do come out of that money. There's daily bus runs.
Right.
There's all kinds of things that just in the course of doing business will continue to tick that number downward. We meet with the education committee in April and we come back from break. So, you won't, these are through February. So you'll have March most likely, but you won't even see April until the end of April till we're into May. So it'll come down some.
Okay.
But as Mike stated before, the 5 million right now, and this number, again, once we go through and make the corrections, as he says, so that this number will fluctuate a little bit, but, the number will continue to go down, but within 2% is considered, being within an acceptable range of your budget. And we're already there at this point, with this number. So I just want to caution everybody from calling it a surplus just yet, because these are just the rest of our, the funds that will get us through the end of June.
And
And then,
thank you, Mike, and the superintendent, because
course.
I hate that word, the superintendent. I hate that word surplus, and I know how people react to the word surplus, and we
Right.
got to be able to explain why we had that surplus and why we haven't used it. Thank you.
Agreed. Yep.
Juanita, did you have a question? I saw your hand up before.
Thank you. I did. A question for Mike. Mike, on the year to date, you talk about the 73.8 million encumbered, and then you go on to talk about as the year, and I'm assuming that that's to date. And so you say as the year progresses, we anticipate additional items that will become encumbered. Can you, just for the record, give an example of what
Sure.
might be encumbered as we progress through the rest of the school year?
Sure. I think a really good example would be if you look at the supplies line, we're favorable about $912,000. Historically, most of our school secretaries, as well as our facilities manager, they put a lot of weight in the end of the year. So they buy a lot of supplies at the end of the year. So a good example would be when Rich Jalbert and his custodians go through the current inventory of cleaning supplies and say, okay, well, we're going to need X amount more cleaning supplies to restock. They will put a requisition in, I'll review it, approve it, it'll become a purchase order. And once it becomes a purchase order, it'll go into that encumbrance column.
Thank you.
Yes.
Anybody else before we move on? I don't see anybody. Okay, I think we're
Okay.
good.
Good. Ken, if you could just go to the next page. So here we have it again by line item. This is our line item report. The first several lines, it goes into the second page, are 51,000s. Again, if you see that string of numbers starting with 1002.00.51, anything with a 51 is going to be a salary number. So these are budget to actual for salaries. Some of the lines, like I said in previous meetings, are combined. So you might look at one teacher line and see that it's very favorable or unfavorable, but that's could be because someone when they were entered were being charged as they were budgeted as a regular, but they were actually a bilingual teacher. So there are differences in between the numbers, but the number that we really pay attention to is at the end of this report, which at the end of this section, which would be on the next page, when we look at total salaries. And Ken, if you scroll down, year to date, Ken, if you could just bump to the next page to see there we go. You'll see that there's 52.5 in the year to date, and then another 42.4 in the year to date, and that's what drives our favorable variance of that 7.3. Benefits. I usually say this. Perhaps I sound like a broken record, but I'll say it again. We have a line called benefits. Since Angela made some revisions, you'll now see that it says employee benefits includes Social Security, health, dental, life, long-term workers' comp and unemployment. A lot of times when we say employee benefits, we think just health and dental, but there's so much more to those numbers. Even in the health insurance numbers, we pay Cigna. They are the ones that adjudicate our claims for us, but we also have other insurances that we pay for, like the Teamsters. So it's kind of an all-encompassing number. Again, we're favorable year to date, about 5.9. And that is reflecting, as I said before, of some of the shifts to ARPA, a little bit of being, I guess, heavy on benefits with those open positions, which we've accounted for in the fiscal year 27 budget. Professional services. This is where you're going to see a lot of those one-time items that I brought up. If you look in about halfway down, you'll see technology services. You'll see that's unfavorable 5.6. That 5.6 mostly will be explained in that one-time item list. Again, I have to go through the coding because I think some things were miscoded, but the large unfavorable variance for professional services is really driven by that professional technical services. And then right above that, you'll see professional services. They are also unfavorable. And those are largely our agency fees that we're paying for. They offset some of the favorable variances in the salaries line. If you scroll down to the next section, we have property services that includes rent. And you'll see that rent is unfavorable, 123,000. Part of that is due to the fact that we receive a check, or two checks, I should say, from Ann Mead and Rick Reusi, Rick runs our adult education. and they pay us a fee on an annual basis for the square footage that their programs use. So you'll see that that number will come down quite a bit, and adjust that negative balance there. Other purchase services, again, this is something of I guess a misnomer. And not only do we have transportation in there, which is one of the largest parts, but we also have tuition. And that tuition that you see at the end of that section is for special education. Those go into private institutions, special education that go to public institutions, as well as a very small amount for VOAG. And you'll see OOD magnet schools, which is something that we added new this year. OOD is out of district. Again, it's a very small amount, but you really are going to look at it by combining those items for tuition and transportation is really how you want to look at it. Any questions? Okay, moving on. So the rest of our supplies here, again, I don't love the word supplies because it includes some large items that I don't feel are really supplies. It's fuel for the buildings, natural gas, electric, propane, and gasoline are in there. I don't consider those supplies. I consider those more utilities, but we don't have a separate section for utilities. You'll see that electric is over. That is largely due because of the new high school. We're slightly over budget. However, we are favorable when you look at the natural gas, 492,000, and we've adjusted for that going forward in the next fiscal year's budget. We've increased the electrics slightly and reduced the natural gas. Point worth noting, I was in contact with Dan Garrett from the city earlier, I believe it was this month or end of last month, that we renegotiated the annual contract for fuel, and it looks like although there are some turbulent times as we see with the gas pumps, we negotiated that prior to those events happening, and we negotiated favorable rates to where we are now. Not a huge savings, but just basically taking the numbers that we have now and applying them based on usage to next year. There is going to be a small savings between natural gas, gasoline, and propane. Some of the other supplies you'll see are also favorable. The large one here is instructional supplies. Like I said, a lot of our staff will wait toward the end of the year to really take inventory and put forth their orders. We have an email that has been crafted up, and I ran it by Kara as well as the rest of the accounting team to make sure it wasn't going to be too troublesome. But we're going to ask that all of the purchase orders for these known supplies at the end of the year be put in way ahead of time. Reason being, if you wait until mid-May and you put an order in, chances are we're not going to receive those goods until the next fiscal year. And the auditors are going to force us to take that expense in the next fiscal year, which would cause a favorable variance, which is what we don't want. So as we monitor the purchase orders on a monthly basis now, we're asking them to put all of the orders that they're going to be putting in, to put them in by the end of April, and to take a look at their POs on a monthly basis. We ask them to review them. If they need to be closed, to please close them. If they are open, to take a look at them and make sure that the estimates that they made for those requisitions are still accurate. And if they're not, to please adjust them so that they're accurate. And then that will allow us to reallocate any of those funds to other needed areas in the district. Enrollment impact and equipment. This is another area right in the middle. You'll see building improvements. That is over. That is part of the one-time funds that Rich Jalbert is using right now to get some of that, some of those much needed supplies ahead of time and work on those spend down. So you'll see that on the spend down list as well. That'll be in the facilities portion. And then similarly, if you scroll down to dues, fees, and staff development, Ken, I don't know if it's on this page or then, yeah, it's technically the next page. You'll see instructional improvements. There's an unfavorable $502,000, which is that's encumbered, so it hasn't actually been spent yet, but that is again part of those one-time spending that you'll see on that list, and that's again for the one-time spend down. And summing all of those up, you'll see we get to that $5.1 million. I'm not going to use the word surplus, yet to be spent.
Okay, do we have any questions so far before we go any further?
Kate?
Go ahead.
Just a real quick question for clarification, Mike. You mentioned that you're asking folks to not only submit any POs for the budget year by the end of April, but also to review the existing POs that they have. Are you asking them to review those existing POs on a rolling basis or just at that point prior to April, the end of April?
Yeah, that's a good question. My goal was to get it done quarterly. Since I made that goal, we have hired an assistant secretary in the finance department, and she's currently doing that on a monthly basis at the beginning of every month. It is a little bit of a tedious process, but I think we're in month 2 now or 3 of doing that. So we kind of have adopted that rhythm where it's going to be on a monthly basis.
Great. Thank you very much. And I think that's I commend you guys because I think that's an area that in the past has been a little sticky and like you said, led to some unexpected unspent funds, right at the end of the year. So I appreciate you being on top of it and cultivating an expectation amongst staff that that's the way it will operate. Thank you.
Yeah, certainly. This is one of those items, when I first took over, there were a lot of larger items to take care of, most of them pointed out by the auditors, and we got most of those under control. And now we're working on finer tuning things, such as this PO, cleaning up our vendor list, making sure we have accurate W-9s for everybody. Things like that is a little bit more tedious, so there's a little bit more pushback, I will say. And folks very commonly will say, "Well, I never had to do this before," and I said, "Yeah, it's exactly why we're doing it." So we're working very hard on some of the minutia to really clean this up and button up any loose ends.
Okay, anybody else before we move on? Mike, I think we're good.
Okay. The next several pages, these are by line item again, but this shows you the monthly, so you can see July in comparison to August, and the rest of the months through February. This is a rather new report. It started when Mr. Ginelli was chair. We can continue to do this if we find it helpful. But again, all these numbers, when you sum them up, will be at the bottom. These numbers are actual expenses. So with that in mind, Ken, if you could just scroll down to where this sums up. If you just continue down a little bit, there should be a grand total. There you go. So these are the monthly spends. You'll see that that 90 million all the way at the end ties to our actual, and then we have the budget there. So again, if this is helpful, we can continue to do this, or if the committee would like to see anything, either a change or anything in addition, we can certainly accommodate that as well.
Any feedback on that? I like to see the month-to-date actuals. I like that. So I don't know how the rest of the committee feels.
If in the future we want to make changes, we're mobile now, or I should say agile, so we can make changes on the fly.
Okay. Good.
I'm in agreement. I think it's helpful right now just for us to be able to monitor it pretty closely month to month. But certainly in the future, that might be something we could adjust. Thank you.
Great. And then the last page again is our grants page where we currently are with the grants. I will take time to mention um, the person that was this report itself was designed by Angela Walsh. She borrowed it from a place she worked previously. I think it's very helpful. The grants coordinator we have now is Juanita Luna. She is the gatekeeper of all the expenses for this, and she meets on a very regular basis with each one of the grant owners to really let them know where they are, how much has left to be spent, and make sure that everything that's in there is accurate. Um, the role that Juanita is filling, Juanita is going to be stepping out of that into a senior accountant role, and that senior accountant role, as we talked about a little bit in the budget, but that's really going to function as a senior staff accountant, working on our journal entries, bringing our bank reconciliations back in place, financial reporting, things of that nature. And we just extended an offer to backfill the grants coordinator position that was accepted. It's an internal candidate, so there's going to be some overlap until we get that. But this would be an opportunity if we wanted to make any adjustments to this report. Although I think it's very helpful, we can make those as well at this time would be a good time to make those.
And I'll let the committee take a look, and then you can always email me, get back to me, or and let us know if you want to see anything different, any changes, any tweaks to the report.
Sure. Louise, if you don't mind, I know it's not on the agenda, but since I started talking a little bit about the staffing update,
Yep.
so I also oversee the National School Lunch Program and National School Breakfast Program. That is run by Janet Simmons, who is our coordinator for school lunch. Our program has grown quite a bit, especially with the expansion of the new school and the onboarding of a new food service management company, Chartwells, from the previous Sodexo. And because of that, there's a lot of additional work that needs to be done. So we brought on through the school lunch program, not through the general fund or through the grants fund, but through the school lunch program, a field service manager and an operations manager who's going to worry a lot about the day-to-day tasks, a lot of the HR function, really making sure that what was put forth in the RFP by Chartwells is being done and it's being done timely and accurate. He is formerly from Sodexo, so he's not a new face to the district. His name is Doug Langridge. I just wanted to point that out. And then our accounts payable secretary right now, Bev Nicely, has been with us for, Kara, you might know better than I do. I think it was 33 years, I want to say.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, earlier in the year, or I should say about earlier last month, she announced that she was going to be retiring, and we were going to have to backfill that position. So, and again, we talked about this briefly in the budget, but we are going to be bringing someone in at a little bit of a higher level to deal more with some of the procurement findings that we've been having through the audit. They're going to be working very closely in doing overseeing what is being done currently by Bev, but also looking at building vendor relationships and making sure that when requisitions come in and POs come in, that if it's federal funds, that they're staying true compliance to the 2 CFR 200, which is the regulations we have to file for federal funding, as well as the local policy that we have as a board. And then really a third part of that, in addition to the vendor management and vendor cleanup, I should say. So it's quite a large task. We extended a verbal offer yesterday, which was accepted. So we're very excited about that. And we're going to be backfilling the union position that opened with Bev's departure. We're just waiting for the coordinator to be on board so that person has say in his team. So all very good and exciting moving forward things, but I thought it was worth mentioning now that things are kind of finalizing.
Sean, you have a question?
think you're on mute. Oh,
See that we're gonna have about $10 million, or we have 10 million. We're gonna get that down, I hope, because the mayor was just up in Hartford arguing that we need more money, so that will be spent.
yes, the remaining funds that we have right now in the general fund, we're looking to the ideal would be to get as close to zero as possible. But yeah, those will continue to deplete as the year goes on.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sean. And I think we'll get a better understanding once we get that itemized list of those one-time expenditures, and we'll be able to see what the real numbers look like for us. So that'll be helpful, at least for me anyway. So
I also just to, if I could just add to that a little bit, again, that's one of the reasons our budget looks the way that it looks, because we recognize there was room in there with the budget between the benefits and the staffing and the vacancies and how we were funding. So, as we move through this year and right size those things and take, obviously we'll take advantage of having a little bit of breathing room in the budget right now, and we're getting a lot of things fixed, which is great. And getting caught up there. But next year's budget, I think, and how that plays out will be a real test of the way that we've chosen to budget this year, to see if that is in fact spot on. And we'll make adjustments as we go. No budget, especially a budget this large and this volatile for the last few years, gets fixed in one budget cycle, but we're certainly making some good progress. So over the next couple of budget cycles, we hope to really be a very well-oiled machine.
Yeah, we're trying to be a little bit more strategic and forward-looking now that things are settling down. So, conversations as I go through these financials, you'll hear me address, yes, we've addressed that in the next year's budget. Yes, we've taken care of that. We've accounted for that. And, the style in budget has changed dramatically, but I think we're on a different path now to not worry about putting out the fires now, but to look proactively and think really strategically about the next coming years. It's good. It's an exciting time.
it is. Thank you. Any questions from committee members, board members? Nothing else? I see nothing. Okay. So, Mike, I guess we'll wait to get those reports to the committee. Also, I just had a quick question. I know we had the money that we're going to have in our little reserve from the last two audits, the 2%.
Yes.
Is that all settled and tucked away?
Thank you for bringing that up. So we have the first part of that was to open the account, which we did last year. So currently the account is open but unfunded. We were waiting for some of the turmoil with multiple audits to calm down, and now that it has, I think it's safe to go ahead and move that. I believe that the step is that there has to be a motion made by the board to go ahead and move those funds, to actually physically move them. And
We want to wait and just do that at our next finance meeting so we can get the exact amounts and the verbiage and everything correct?
Sure.
Because that's fine. I mean, unless anybody on the committee feels otherwise, I don't have a problem with waiting to the next finance committee to address that and move the funds over.
It might be helpful to wait and as we have that discussion, to also show the policy that we have crafted on how we're dealing with those funds, and the rules and regulations on how we spend that with approval of the board.
Okay. Everybody's okay with that? Yep. Okay, perfect. That sounds like a plan.
Wonderful.
Excellent. Okay. If there's no other questions or comments, I will look for a motion to adjourn.
Adjourn.
So moved. Oh, sorry, Sean.
Motion made by Sean, seconded by Kate. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
We are